Very fun. So, right, that's pretty sticky now. Maybe a little bit too wet. And really, if I can make a ball, it's pretty much ready to go. Probably a little bit too much moisture. That should be fine. I'll just try it up. So, right, so my mixture's wet enough, it's sticky enough, it's ready to go. I take my snowdrop, and you have to be careful with snowdrops. So snowdrops are really delicate. If you bash them, the stem will snap. So you just have to be a little bit careful with the snowdrop. So just cup your finger between the plants and then catch it. You want to bang a tiny bit of the soil out and roughly make it round. It hasn't got to be perfectly round, just kind of roundish. There we go, without damaging the roots. And you want to end up with something like that. Then take your sticky mixture, kind of cup your hand in a semi-ball shape. It's too dry now.
So did you pop it in the centre of your well and then mould it around that way?
Yeah.
Have you got little hands?
Little hands?
Have
Oh.
you got little hands?
I've got little hands.
Did you sort of then again do that and pop it and then do it like that?
What, the ball or the mixing the soil? Yeah, I mean, the best way to make this is just to whatever's comfortable with you. So I just get my hand flat. I've got little hands, little southern hands. And then I kind of flatten it, and I'm just doing a curve, just to get a slight curve in it. And then take the snowdrop, and I just give it a little squeeze, and I start sticking the soil on it like that, and I've got half the ball. I then take the other half, and then I almost cup it in a round circle. So I'm making the ball with my hands. Because they are markers, there are sticks in it, so just get the sticks out. And then what you want to do is use the tips of your fingers then, to kind of just firm it in and form the ball.
Can I ask, when your strict teacher threw things out,
Yeah.
whatever sort of thing was she finding?
So if the ball wasn't perfectly round, if the difference between the size, so I'll get onto that when we do the moss, but the ball has to be kind of aesthetic with the plant. So you don't want to end up with a Kokedama ball this big and your snowdrops this big on top. So you have to look at it, it's totally by eye, but you have to look at it and work out roughly, does that shape and sphere of the ball look nice with the size of the plant? So, years of Kokedama, my hands have formed into, so that's what you're looking for. Now to say that, I quite like breaking the rules as well. And we did the workshop last time, and I started making Kokedamas that were more like this. And they were quite nice as well. And then what you can do as well is start making like little display pieces, and you can put forward and then have a massive Kokedama if you can mix the soil up, that's the thing. So it's by eye, and because it's your Kokedama, it's down to what you want as well. I'm not going to come around and chuck them all out at the end of the day. Not that I will, because they're all going to be perfect. But that's pretty much what it is. So when you start to thread the ball, I'll show you when we get onto it. But what can happen is you can end up with a really rounded side and then a really kind of inward side, depending how you pack the moss on. So that's pretty happy with that. Pretty stuck on.
Perfect.
So this isn't the last squidging stage, there's more squidging stages from here. So I've got my ball, and now I get my moss. So pretty much like we did the first layer, I cup the moss in my hand, and I just start wrapping it round, and that's what I'm aiming for. If you can do the moss ball in one coat of moss, you'll end up with a rounder Kokedama. Can't always do it because the moss is quite tricky, but then if you've got one-sided moss and this side hasn't got smush, you've got to start packing moss on, and then what can happen is you start packing it and then the Kokedama does get, but it's just moss this big. So I'm just placing the moss on. You have to use gravity. Gravity is your friend for this. And you just have to balance it on. Really remember to get the moss around the top of the plant as well. You don't want to see bare soil around the plant, so really cover that as well. So I'm covering it here. And your first layer is the hardest, but it's how much you think you can have. The soil is sticky, so a little bit will stick on. So I'm pretty happy with that. Then what I do is I take my thread, and you want to keep it short on the roll now as well. You don't want like yards of it and then wrap up. So all you want to do, oh God, this is the tricky bit. All right, so I'm holding my moss. I take the thread, and I tuck it under my thumb, and I hold it tight. And then what I'm doing, see that's too long. So we have to roll that up a bit. Like this. And then what I'm doing, I'm using the thread to keep the moss on the ball now. So you just want to make sure that you get it tight and around all your areas of moss. I am using the hardest moss as well. The moss that you're using is a lot easier to keep on the ball. Like that. So I'm just wrapping it round, keeping it tight. If a little bit falls off, it's fine. And I'm really keeping it tight. Like that. I can see that the bottom here is falling off a bit. So I'm going to go round, and I'm going to aim for the thread on that bit, and get it held down, and that bit, get it held down. So now I've got the thread on, the moss will stay on, and then from there it's pretty easy. So I keep the thread on, and then what I'm going to do is the next layer. It's good when you grab a good blanket of moss, yeah, put it on, quite satisfying. Right, that moss is held on, so I haven't got to worry about that, so I'm just focusing on keeping this one on. This moss comes off the roof of the abbey. I don't know anything about moss, like species-wise. This moss falls to pieces quite a lot, so what I do is I put the tulip crate, I put a sheet of newspaper, and what happens is as it gets wet, the newspaper becomes a mat, which means that the moss won't fall to pieces in my hands as I put it on. So that's moss, that's roof moss. So if you've got a lot of roof, and that's where you're getting your moss from. Right, so I got that layer on, quite happy with that. And this is just getting the first layer on, so this isn't the fine tuning stage yet.
How many layers do you put on?
All depends on how well the moss stays on. You're aiming for one layer if you can. This moss is a little bit trickier. I just want to, see, a bit fell off there. So I'm just going to wrap the thread around it like that. I'm going to snap this for now, just so we can have a look. That's what you do. So we kind of end up with this kind of rough moss ball. So now you can start squeezing again. Because now it's held on, I haven't got to worry about it falling off all over the place.